How did you get your start in acting?
Uh, I guess I don't know actually. I mean, I guess I kind of started messing around with acting when I was around 14. Um, I I wouldn't say it was a start. I'd say it was just, I kind of got an ultimatum from my mum. I guess I was getting into a bit of trouble at school. At the time, I used to box, and my mum was like, "You need to like either like pursue boxing or like do something creative." And I was like, "Well, I've heard of Denzel Washington," and she was like, "Okay, well, do that." So yeah, I guess that's how that maybe that's my closest way of saying how I got my start.
And you're also a director. How do you feel like your work behind the camera has helped with you working in front of it?
Yeah, I'm still learning about everything. I mean, I definitely have a passion for creating and trying to make things, but from this show alone, you learn so much from working on like a scale of like how big industry is, and we had Lena, we had Ed, we had Mary, we had Tinge, these amazing directors who just know what they're doing. So I definitely took a couple leaves out of their book, when I could, and tried to pick their brains about some things.
And what is something you hope American audiences can learn about London through watching the show?
Well, I mean, look, I hope American audiences can learn that um, we don't all just sit around drinking tea. And I guess it's London's it's a diverse place. Gus is very different from me in many ways, but I guess even the representation of Gus is like something that maybe people don't know can come from like London or Britain, full stop. So I hope that people can see how like diverse London can be, or London is, and how much and I hope that inspires other communities to be like better.
And speaking of diversity, the show shows diversity of like race, gender, sexuality, and the intersections of all of them. With that, what do you think is the importance of showcasing intersectionality and diversity in television and film?
Um, I think it's very important. I think it has a responsibility a bit because we consume so much media as like young people, as people of the universe, full stop. So I think to look to shows like industry and shows and films across the globe, we need to kind of show diversity is so important. I can't imagine what the world would be like if we didn't do that. So I'm hoping that we can all push forward towards that with shows like industry, to make us more diverse, to make us listen to different stories. And I think Gus and the show represents a different story, and I think that's what's important.
And with the character of Gus, what was your preparation process for this role?
Well, a lot. I read a lot, and I went to Eton, which is like a really high-end school in Britain, and Oxford. I guess you guys call them Ivy League schools. I'm just not from. I'm from a working class background in East London, and my family we didn't come from anything like that. So first of all, was getting my head around that, like not only the education system, but also like what that breeds in you, like the kind of confidence it gives you going to one of these schools, and then as a young black boy and going to one of these schools, and coming out and going, yeah, I can do this. It's definitely something. And then beyond that, it was just finance, like finance jargon, which the show definitely boasts a lot of. But shout out to Investopedia because they really helped us all on like understanding certain terms, and our writers who came from a finance background, they know everything. So they definitely helped us to try and understand that. But yeah, it was constant research, and we just dived in as much as we could and tried to understand it and live it.
And in what ways do you feel like Gus differs from other characters you've portrayed before?
I think in every way. I mean, he's so confident in many ways, and his intellect is just like next level. You know, he's like meant so smart, um, and you know, he's got these sensitivities in many ways that I just know that I haven't been able to explore in other characters before. So having been able to do that with someone like Gus has just been it's been a gift. You know, I really do think he's a bit of a gem of a character, and I really care about him. You know.
And in what ways do you feel like the show industry differs from other finance films or television shows we've seen in the past?
Yeah, we definitely spoke about that. You know, when we were filming it and when we were talking about stuff like this, we said, you know, how is this different from Wolf of Wall Street or, you know, the modicum of shows about finance nowadays? And I guess like the way we kind of understood it was, you know, inevitably this is not a show about finance. It's a show about human beings. It's a show about these young kids who are just trying to find their way in the world. You know, that's what Gus is doing. That's what everyone in the show is doing. We're just trying to find like our foothold, and everything in between the finance talk is just like an attempt to like connect. You know what I mean? Like an attempt to like just understand one another. So I think you know, that's definitely one aspect, and beyond that is, you know, I think the show does a really good job of not glorifying you know, like what the finance world and like look what money can do for you. Like it's a bit of the opposite, you know. If you know, with all these things come like more and more troubles, sorry, more and more worries, and these kids are just trying to understand that and find that out for themselves. But you know, you have to kind of experience it firsthand, and I think that the show does a good job in portraying that.
And with the authenticity of the show, audiences will see the story of Harry and the extreme pressures all of the graduates are placed under. Do you hope in some ways the show can shed light on the realities of life working in the finance industry?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, that was also part of the research. You know, you understood that these people are just human, and you know, you kind of look at these people as like these like uber beings who don't live no life apart from like money, and that couldn't be further from the truth. I think the show, I do hope that people see like a bit of a reality in what they think is like really really cool and really like full of, you know, money and like cool stuff. It's like it's it has a grounding element to it, which I hope that people can also experience, as well as the highs, but also the lows. Yeah.
And with your character of Gus, we're seeing a Black man in a high stress and extremely competitive environment. How are you able to get into that mindset?
I mean, you know, that's my dad. You know what I mean? Like my dad worked in IT. You know, he's an IT engineer. He didn't do too much, but I know that he worked so hard, and he'd come home from work sometimes just like stressed because he'd worked so hard all day. So looking at someone like him who really worked so hard to try and provide for the family, you know, you can really easily understand how, you know, rewind like 20, 30 years before, and you see him as like Gus, and you understand where it comes from. Gus inevitably has like a real form of ambition. You know, he wants to do good, no matter where he's come from, no matter his background. He just wants to do good, and he understands also, you know, he's Black. You know what I mean? He's got to work really hard to try and make an impact. So yeah, if I'm honest, that was the easiest thing about Gus, understanding, you know, um, how his background easily influences how hard he's got to work. That was quite easy. Yeah.
And we get to see the friendship between Gus and Rob and the privileges they both have with coming from prestigious institutions, but also the lack thereof. Do you hope that the show will help audiences recognize their own privileges and how it impacts their own life?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think. Listen, I hope the show does that, but also I think it's a time for like everyone to understand their privilege, you know. And listen, it's not an attack on anyone, but it's just important that people go, listen, I'm so and so, and this is how my privilege influences the world. And I think I think that's a really good analysis. I think that's exactly what's at play between Robert and Gus. People say that, you know, Gus is so much more privileged than Robert, but in many ways you go, yeah, Gus went to all these schools, and you know, he might come from money, but then you just need to look at Rob to understand why he might get to so and so places faster than Gus, and that's just straight up. And I think the show does a good job in like trying to explain that, but not putting it in your face. Hopefully, people find that and see that for themselves. And the show on a whole, you know, just really does those things where it gives you something, then flips it, and hopefully makes you look at your life and understand like it's not always as it seems. Look a bit deeper, you know.
And my final question for you would be, what do you hope audiences will gain from watching Industry?
Yeah, I mean, I hope straight up, I hope audiences really, you know, enjoy it first and foremost. I think it's a show about being young and a show about finding yourself and a show about representation. And I think that I hope audiences really see that. And beyond that, I think, you know, trying to understand that, you know, we're all just human and we're all just trying to find ourselves. I think like that would be an honor to have portrayed and for people to have understood. And especially with the character of Gus, I don't think his story's really been told yet. So I hope people might respond well to that. And yeah, across the board, I just hope people enjoy it really.